Max Muncy let us all know that when times are tough, he's ready to lift us up with one good arm. Also, if silence is violence, then the Sparks just pretty much threw Derek Fisher under a fleet of buses. And what type of player would help the Lakers? And if so, can they afford him? Hi, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is Faithful Angelenos. It is June 10th, 2022. I am still stuck in a basement in Omaha, Nebraska on my lunch break. But let's talk LA sports. If you like the content we've been putting out for the last couple of months, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we have a new video. It's usually between 9 and 10 a.m. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And yes, comment. For I am not perfect. We had a brief schedule yesterday. Max Muncy came back for the Dodgers. He had a home run, drove in 5 overall. Dodgers take the series 11-9 over Chicago. They are on a plane. They are flying back west, where they will face the Giants at 8:15 tonight. Walker Buehler, he's 6-2. He will face Jake Junis, 3-1. Now we have a Dodgers note for you. Starting pitcher Andrew Heaney on rehab. He went 4 1/3 scoreless innings for Oklahoma City. Might have another start left in him before he comes back to the club. Rams COO Kevin DeMoff, and I have no idea what COO is. He's talked about all the contracts that they've been throwing out, says the model isn't sustainable, but, quote, our model has been aggressive in trying to build the best team that we can build. That is sustainable. And that is your daily doublespeak from the front office quote of the day. Something that totally means nothing. I would never want to be a coach or a GM in the WNBA. Ever. If you think about it, every time a coach or a manager gets fired, the players always give one of those hokey, oh my gosh, we all got to look in the mirror. I'm so sorry this happened. We just didn't do enough to keep that guy. Maybe some self-introspection. But not in the WNBA. They ain't going to reflect on nothing. They don't think they did anything wrong. I mean, I'm looking at the Sparks here. They're 5-7. They fired the coach, and they just chucked that poor guy right under the bus, Derek Fisher. Now, I'm not trying to tell you that he's blameless, but you don't think, players, that you're not even remotely responsible? That maybe you need to ask yourself what went wrong? Hell no, they're not going to do that. Absolutely not. No humility whatsoever. Liz Cambage may or may not have used a racial slur. She definitely was part of an international incident with regards to sports before the Olympics. Is she going to sit there and go, maybe I should look at myself? Nope, not at all. The closest we can get to a quote about Derek Fisher, I wasn't part of that decision. Drink in a little humility for a change, huh? Sometimes I think there's a race to the bottom in sports writing to see who could be the first to have an IQ of absolute 0. I was going through soccer websites. I saw a note about the money that Carlos Vela is making with LAFC. I get all excited, thinking, oh my gosh, he signed his extension finally. Nope, wrong. Matter of fact, the guy didn't even have an update. Not only that, he spelled Carlos with 2 R's. So Carlos doesn't have a new contract. Carlos with 2 R's. One of USC's top administrators, he is leaving the school because he wants to join the NFL. Brandon Sosna, he is the chief of staff for athletics. He apparently is heading, he was part of the group that brought Lincoln Riley to LA. He's going to go to the Lions. Apparently he wants to be an NFL GM. I'm going to leave it up to you to decide if the Detroit Lions actually qualify as NFL. LeBron James wants to own an NBA team in Las Vegas. Maybe he should ask Michael Jordan how his little foray into ownership is coming along. I think there has to be a rule. If your only previous experience is running a team is the Toon Squad from Space Jam, you might not be NBA front office material. Just saying. By the way, the Lakers worked out Sharif O'Neal, that's Shaquille's kid. You might remember him. He started off at UCLA. He tried Arizona. He winds up at LSU. 6'10", like father, like son, can't sink a free throw. Leave it at that. Now that the honeymoon is over for Darvin Ham, what exactly do the Lakers have, and has he been making the right decisions? The reason I ask, there's probably 8 players that are likely coming back, and it could be as few as 5, depending on the most tradable players. Russell Westbrook is a tradable player, for example. So's Talen Horton-Tucker. So's Kendrick Nunn. Now, I'm not saying they will be traded, but they are tradable. That leaves 5, and of the 5 players, the only 2 that we know are cornerstones are Anthony Davis and LeBron James. They're going to have a taxpayer mid-level exception contract that's $6.3 million, and everybody else is going to make the minimum wage. They are light on the interior. In other words, they don't have as much height as they're used to having, and they are definitely light on the wing. This is a major, major problem. Ham wants to play an offense called 4 out, 1 in. You have 1 player in the post. Theoretically, that's Anthony Davis. You have 2 players on each side of the court, all 4 of them basically stationed outside of the three-point line. This is a problem. Now, theoretically, it's supposed to make sense. It's supposed to make sense. Why? Because last year the Lakers were tied for the 5th tallest team in the league. So you figure height makes right. And they were also the oldest. Now, why does this work with the 41? Because most basketball coaching websites that I've been going across say when you are that old and that tall, you don't want to run a lot of fast breaks. You do want to run a set offense with a lot of shooting over screens. The stack offense is actually recommended. Now, the stack offense, for those of you who don't know, is run a lot in high school. Instead of having 4 outside of the three-point line, you actually have the 4 crowding in against the free throw lane. And then you run a whole bunch of interior cuts. The point guard dishes it off. So it's the same principle. It's just on a wider plane. A wider plane. So having said that, the thought is right, but they don't have the personnel. See, if you've heard of the phrase, for example, 3-and-D guy, maybe you don't know what it is. What a 3-and-D guy is theoretically, it's a player who's about, say, 6'9", not quite 6'10", maybe he's 6'8". He defends multiple positions, and he hits threes maybe a third of the time. The Lakers have 0 of those. Okay, that's a big problem. They used to have one. They used to have a couple. You remember a guy named Kyle Kuzma? Yeah, he's not there now, obviously. You might be able to get one with a mid-level exception, but if you do, that's a major win, okay? Because if you're thinking about it, a player with that many types of abilities could probably make more than a mid-level exception. Now, there are theoretically more than one way to make the 41 offense work. I mean, we're talking about one player in the low post. You could assume it's Anthony Davis. But Anthony Davis can shoot from the outside. So, who else would you put in there? LeBron comes to mind. LeBron's made a career off of mismatches in the key, whether it's driving to the hole or whether it's working in the low post. And even to a lesser extent, you could say Russell Westbrook could fit down there. Now, you might be also going, hey, James, they signed a bunch of big players over the last couple of years, and that did work the year that they won their 17th title. But those centers have gotten old. Dwight Howard. I wouldn't. DeAndre Jordan, Andre Drummond, they tried those guys. Didn't work. So those are questions that the Lakers would have to answer. There's even one more question I would recommend that we all have to ask ourselves. They will need defensive-minded guards. Here's the problem. Austin Reeves is not a primary option for that. See, you're trying to defend these guards from playing against you like that. Reeves is not a primary option. Neither is Taylor Horton Tucker. For that matter, if they get Malik Monk back, which would be a bit of a stretch, if they get Malik Monk, he doesn't play defense all that well either. So then you're looking at the names and you're asking yourself, well, is it possible that they can cut a break with, say, Ricky Rubio or Victor Oladipo? Keep in mind, their stock has fallen a lot over the last couple of years. So if you take a step back looking at the Lakers, is it the possibility that the coach has the right idea and simply has zero tools or next to no tools to work with? You tell me. I think the honeymoon is going to be over a lot sooner than we had anticipated. Not trying to hate, it's just a fact, or it's just a strong hunch. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode of Faithful Angelenos, thank you very much. You should like and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to build something for LA sports out here. My name is James. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corta El Queso production. Take care.